Continuing from the previous episode 2820. What power is this? Originally thought that the strength of the Dark King had already reached the peak of heaven and earth, but after hearing the roar of the Son of Man, the only remaining confidence in Xiao Yan's heart instantly disappeared. The strength of the Son of God is even more terrifying than the King of Darkness. Today's divine Son of Man, stepping on the top of the mid-empty space with contentment, an arrogant and contemptuous smile filled the corners of his mouth. Under his feet are Xiao Yan and other Infinite Flame Alliance powerhouses, and behind him are the Allied forces. This scene was completely controlled by him. Fear, uneasiness, and several emotions rushed into their hearts, and the depths of everyone's pupils were filled with an unbelievable look, staring blankly at the magnificent shadow of the Son of God. That level is simply not an existence that they can contend with. I didn't expect him to actually cross the cycle. Battle God. It's quite tempting. Human's rank. The strength of this guy should have jumped over the peak of the 9 reincarnation rank and stepped into the demigod level. The Dark King's eyes were surging, and his tone gradually became solemn, and the idea of implementing the plan in his heart became more and more firm. The pinnacle of the 9-fold reincarnation, a demigod, the two seem to be only a step away, but the gap is as insurmountable as a gulf, because the two of them are not on the same level at all. What is a demigod? Xiao Yan's soul shrank slightly when he heard the two vague and dry words of the demigod. This kind of word far exceeded any previous understanding of his own. Everything under the reincarnation step is ants. According to my guess, he is at least comparable to me in the 3 heydays. While speaking, the King of Darkness turned his head to look at Xiao Yan with great interest. Even though he told Xiao Yan the exact strength of the opponent, there was no fear and anxiety in Xiao Yan's eyes. Meaning, this blood is deeply appreciated by the King of Darkness. There are some odds. If you and I join forces, the odds of winning are less than 2 points. Dark King Senran's voice slowly emerged from the darkness. As of now, there is no way out. Even if they are fighting for their lives, they will never be able to escape from here. In addition to the existence of the 2 archangels and countless angel followers in the other side's kingdom of angels. Their purpose is to hope that the underworld will disappear forever, and even Xiao Yan and other high-level leaders of the Endless Flame Alliance will completely fall into it. In that case, they are still the kingdom of angels that no one in the world can compete with. The center of the human world, they still can maintain his aloof status. Dong dong! In an instant, the 5 battle circles started completely. The Endless Flame Alliance Coalition, against the Angel Kingdom and the Human World Center Coalition. The King of All Beasts and Yu Rushwang face off against Wangxian Xuanzhen. Kalin and Yunyan face off against Archangel Bilin. Xiao Yan and the King of Darkness deal with each other's 2 supreme powers respectively. Archangel Ares was the first to sing the long words of an angel, and pieces of dazzling sacred light fell from the angel's wings behind him, adding countless colors to this dim underworld. Obviously, she did not intend to give Xiao Yan anything. A chance to breathe. Boom! Facing the terrifying power of Archangel Ares, the King of Darkness snorted coldly, and the black tide gushed out from the countless voids, blocking the water surrounding the heaven and earth here, but before the latter could make a move, he sighed. Being entangled together by the Son of God. Silk. Xiao Yan's eyes shrank slightly, and he couldn't help taking a deep breath when he saw the opponent's offensive. The strength of this archangel has reached the pinnacle of the 9 reincarnation rank, the middle stage. Impressively, 1 point stronger than the Wangxian Xuanzhen just now. Looking at the angel feathers that were getting closer and closer, there was a divine wave of destruction on them. Xiao Yan's skin, flesh and blood, and even his soul, trembled slightly. Are you afraid? Want to escape? The place where the powerhouses of the Xiao clan slept on their own is within easy reach. Do you want to retreat? The power of the devil that had been silent for a long time in the body was like a stubborn devil child at this time, and the despicable voice kept resounding in Xiao Yan's mind. Do not. Shaking his head slightly, the madness in Xiao Yan's eyes immediately appeared, and the blood in the depths of the bloodline was vividly displayed. Now, only Ustrascathras battles. With the appearance of blood, break through all shackles and restraints. Since this group of arrogant powerhouses are so proud, they will be completely wiped out here, so that the Angel Kingdom kills the angels, and the World Master in the center of the human world knows. What is the Xiao clan? Have you given up? That's fine. The strength of the 9-layer reincarnation is certainly extraordinary, but in my eyes, it is like an ant. Looking at Xiao Yan's slowly closing eyes, Archangel Ares' glamorous beauty gradually poured out an increasingly sacred killing power. The angels in the kingdom of angels have been weak in combat since ancient times, and can only use the power of blessing, but their killing is different. The enchanting purple angel wings slowly stretched out, and then they shook rapidly in this dark void. Pieces of purple angel feathers slowly fell, vaguely forming a mysterious and ancient huge light formation. With the appearance of this scene, more and more angel feathers fell off their angel wings and spun around Ares. The speed of the rotation became more and more terrifying. In the center of the looming light array, there was a huge circle of light. The purple corona floats, a sacred crown of light condensed entirely by the angel feathers of Ares, magnificent and magnificent, as if connecting this world with the purest and holy land of angels. Just after it emerged, many forces in the darkness were attracted by it. Projected away, looking up, in the crown of light, it seems to be an extremely beautiful, sacred and surging paradise. Just after watching, a long-lost tremor gushed out from the depths of the soul, and even a huge suction burst out from it. There are dreadful traces that devour everything. A strange smile appeared at the corner of Ares' mouth, and then the angel's wings waved again behind him. He didn't know what kind of surging divine power it contained. It was extremely noble, as if it could judge some evils in this world. The battle between Bei Lin and Wangxian Xuanzhen in the distance gradually gained the upper hand as time went by. This guy seems to have a killer move? In the high sky, the Dark King, who was shrouded in the dark tide, looked at Xiao Yan slightly, but found that some power in the latter's body gradually became boiling. Vaguely, the temperature of this piece of heaven and earth gradually rose. The source of such anomalies is not caused by flames, but more like some kind of terrifying force that can distort the world. The angel's wings waved, and the boundless sacred crown of light accompanied by bundles of pure filaments suddenly cut through the dark void, stirring all the energy here at will like a *** descending to earth, and then patted the void where Xiao Yan was sitting quietly cross-legged. That feeling, like an eagle soaring in the sky, suddenly plunged into the ground, trying to harvest its own food with thunder. If such an attack were to fall, even Xiao Yan would not be able to protect himself. Continuing from the previous episode 2821. Careful. The two women who were fighting with Beeline in the distance hurriedly turned their heads, looking at Xiao Yan in such a strange state, they couldn't help roaring immediately. Before the voice could be fully shouted, the sacred crown of light fell out of thin air, and the entire void seemed to be pulled up by its vicious touch, and a fear that originated from the depths of the blood and soul spread rapidly. The destructive energy possessed by this attack is astonishingly close to the quasi-divine rank. With the strength of Ares at the pinnacle of the 9 reincarnation rank and angel wings, everyone seemed to be holding their breath. Even if Xiao Yan had the blessing of the dragon god bone, he would turn into dust under his attack. Burning. Decision. The 4th realm, the burning heaven realm. Feeling the approaching breath of death, Xiao Yan's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, and immediately there were long and ancient whispers throughout his body. Boom! The incomparably powerful force was raging wildly at this time, and a shocking aura erupted from Xiao Yan's body, causing the whole world to change drastically. The root of Fenju cultivation technique became scarlet at this time. In those roots, ancient energy seals covered with brilliant colors were born out of thin air, and then carried a trace of extremely weak primordial breath. Out of thin air from Xiao Yan's the soul poured out from the top of the head, and immediately collided with the sacred crown of light under the gaze of everyone. Boom! The two collided in an instant, and the shock wave that destroyed the sky and the earth erupted, and the entire dim underworld void seemed to tremble and collapse at this moment. In the void, endless black abyss with bottomless depths emerged, and huge cracks spread around like a giant dragon. But this change only lasted for a moment, and those fluctuations caused by the two attacks were instantly destroyed. The dark tide engulfed it. The void of the underworld still inherits its original appearance. The sacred crown is extremely powerful, but after the infiltration of the strange power of the other party, it quickly collapsed. Above the sky, the smile on the face of the son of the gods disappeared instantly, and there was a faint trace of grimness emerging. With his extraordinary power, he could not easily defeat the Dark King. It seemed that no matter how terrifying the attack he volatilized, it would be destroyed by the demon robe on the Dark King's body. Devoured. That demon robe is more like an abyss monster that can't be fed at all. Even if you use the power of a demigod yourself, you can still swallow it. This kind of fluctuation is Fenju. Immediately, I felt the shocking explosion below, and there was a shock in the eyes of the Son of God. Based on his experience, he naturally knew that Fenju was a genuine God-level cultivation technique, but he had no choice but to practice harsh conditions, and very few were able to successfully cultivate, and very few knew his cultivation route. But similar to the leader of the Xiao clan, Xiao Yan, just relying on the fifth realm of Fenju and his own extraordinary strength, has almost become the strongest in this world. From this one can see the horror of Fenju. Arriving at the level of a demigod, the son of the gods just knew how illusory the so-called fighting gods are. Divine arts, gods, souls, and god-level exercises, at least one of the four needs to be mastered. Tier qualifications. And the so-called demigods are just trying to get close to these four. Even if he is as powerful as the Son of God himself, he would not be able to touch one of the four great god realms in his entire life, let alone attack the god of fighting. Although that realm is too tempting, human, but it is full of dangers that make one's heart palpitate. Boom! The roaring sound swept out, and the attack of the two was instantly annihilated in the darkness. Ares stood in the sky, and his beautiful eyes were full of surprise. In that strange power, there seems to be a power that is more ancient and mysterious than the power of the devil. Primal power? Obviously, this power once again refreshed the latter's understanding of Xiao Yan. Fun and fun. The next moment, Ares' elegant face instantly turned hideous, and he almost roared at Xiao Yan with some kind of hoarse roar, without the noble gesture of the archangel of the past. Quote. Xiao Yan didn't answer. The power of Fenju's fourth realm was completely controlled by himself as early as after the end of the Dragon Clan, and when he used it, it was enough to use the power of the practice technique to burn down a side of the heaven, and the power was almost equal to the quasi-divine technique. But what kind of power is that kind of fluctuation similar to the original breath? Although it is weak, Xiao Yan can clearly feel the fluctuations contained in it, and the mere reincarnation is nothing but ants. Do you think that you can compete with this seat? You are too young and too proud. Angel Shrine, open it for me. Today I will judge you thoroughly here. Ares' expression is close to madness, and his words and deeds are like a crazy madman, and he doesn't care about others at all. The next moment, the angel feathers behind Ares shook violently, and immediately poured into the dark clouds of the sky. The angel wings waved, driving the angel feathers to build some kind of supreme altar. Everything in the air and the void seems to be pulled into a sacred altar in an instant. With the twisting of the latter's mind, the order of this world has begun to undergo weak changes. This is the power of the angel kingdom to judge the angels? In an instant, the king of fallen angels and Lu Yun, who were constantly exerting the power of reincarnation in the distance to resist the opposing coalition forces, lost their voices, and their pupils were filled with an indescribable shock. Strange. The demon power that cannot be used in the body for a short period of time has actually begun to revive. On Xiao Yan's palm, the flame Saint Cauldron flickered slightly, but the demonic power in his body was not under his control, and there were faint traces of breaking out of his body. He raised his head slightly, looked at the sacred altar, and a feeling of being lost and scattered came out. Xiao Yan couldn't help clenching his fists. At this moment, the crisis came like a tide, which made him feel an unspeakable suffocation. This guy has already discovered that he can use the power of angels to forcibly seduce the power of demons. Once the power of demons in his body appears, the latter can use the power of angels to completely judge and punish himself. For a time, on the edge of the entire underworld wall, bundles of sacred light filaments fell, flickering and flickering, forming two worlds with the dark and dim underworld below. The sacred filament is extremely hot, and it seems that it cannot use any power to stop it and fight it. This altar is your doom. Ares stared at Xiao Yan arrogantly. This time, even if the latter has the ability to reach the sky, he has to fall here forever. Flame Holy Cauldron. Holy Flame Pattern. Xiao Yan's eyes erupted with blood, and immediately a drop of life essence and blood poured into the Flame God Cauldron. In this battle, the Flame God Cauldron must be fully motivated. All the power in the body was poured into the flame god Cauldron at this moment. Immediately, this ancient divine artifact originated from the Xiao family, and at this time, a splendid dawn slowly bloomed, and it rose slightly, one after another sacred, the scorching holy pattern spreads out, and it has the power to compete with the altar of the sky. Steel incense. Continuing from the previous episode 2822. Latest URL. Buzz. At the moment when the angelic altar, which was completely forged by the divine angelic power, was completely formed, a smug smile suddenly appeared on the lips of Archangel Ares. The holy altar has been discovered, and it is filled with the purest purifying power in the kingdom of angels, and that extraordinary power is enough to smash Xiao Yan to pieces. Then the jade hand changed, and once again, with its endless angel power, it condensed a heart-pounding killer. I saw that the palm of her hand was instantly covered with faint pure white filaments, bundles of which were enough to punish and purify all evil spirits. Expanding the purification power of the altar. The pure white filament of light is like a beam of dawn that cuts through the darkness. It burns continuously under its control, purifying all the evil auras in the void, and between the ascension, it turns into the shadow of a small and exquisite angel. Like a humble servant around the angel altar, the shadow of the altar is getting stronger and stronger. Wherever the miniature angel's shadow passed, a faint sacred halo remained in the void. At this moment, the angelic altar was filled with divine power, which had surpassed Xiao Yan's cognition and was enough to subvert any ninefold cycle of reincarnation. Tier powerhouse. Why don't you blow yourself up? I admire your courage, but it's a pity that this boring farce is over. Archangel Ares focused his gaze on the altar of angels, which was filled with sacred filaments that were enough to smash the current Xiao Yan into pieces, and immediately looked at Xiao Yan, who was pretending to be calm with interest, and said lightly. Xiao Yan's face sank, the corners of his mouth twitched viciously, his face was terrifying for a while, and even his eyes were filled with unprecedented madness. Flaming God Cauldron. Seeing such an unresolved situation, Xiao Yan took a deep breath, and the depths of his eyes were finally filled with endless madness. Immediately, he no longer had any reservations. The power of reincarnation in his body, the power of holy flame cooperated with the flame *** ding surged together, and the vast power burst out instantly. It seemed that at this moment, he had exhausted all his means. Even today's mortal situation will make these hypocritical angels pay a heavy price. Boom! The flame god Cauldron rose up from behind Xiao Yan, and at that moment, the world suddenly became boiling, the universe turned upside down, and the dark matter and other forces in the entire void trembled. The flame god Cauldron was surrounded by 9 holy patterns, jumped directly over the void, and slammed into the angel altar. Boom! The indescribable shock wave raged in an instant, and suddenly set off a holy flame storm in the vast world outside this dark wall. It's a pity that this movement, in front of the angelic altar, was like a child's play. There was no storm at all, and it slowly disappeared. In the face of Xiao Yan's death-defying counterattack, Archangel Ares' beautiful eyes showed a faint hint of strangeness, and his contemptuous smile was mixed with some mockery. Boom! Then, without giving Xiao Yan any chance to resist, the angel's wings waved slightly, and countless purple angelic powers roared out, turning into countless sacred judgment phantoms, exuding monstrous divine might. Tempting Xiao Yan's body, the silent demon power slowly diffused out. With the shadow of death looming over his heart, Xiao Yan suddenly took a deep breath and turned his head slightly to look at Kaylin and Yun Yun, who were in the fierce battle. Then the eyes surging, it seems to be vaguely looking through the dark wall, looking at the location of the core. Where should be the destination of their trip? The altar of angels, fall down, forever suppress evil. All of Ares' emotions disappeared instantly, like a mansion walking in the world. His high-pitched and majestic voice shocked everyone present. The jade hand slowly stretched out and pointed to Xiao Yan's position with a high judgment. The angelic altar surrounded by countless angels' shadows slowly fell. Get me in! Seeing Xiao Yan struggling like this, Ares twisted his jade hand viciously, and the remaining angel feathers suddenly twisted the void, and in just an instant, Xiao Yan was completely pulled into the angel altar, trying to destroy him completely. Kill this! As soon as he poured into the altar of angels, the overwhelming divine power around him was like a condescending judge. Through his own skin and flesh, he directly attacked the power of the demons that had been silent in his body. The dazzling altar of angels fell, and the countless filaments of light in it were as brilliant and sacred as the brand of the gods. It was easy to tilt down from the 9 heavens, obliterated, and cleared all the evil forces here. In the dim void, a huge gap suddenly appeared, and countless divine powers of judgment dripped down from the altar. Even the powers of the Dark Kings, or the 2 original guardians, were some evil left over after the fall of the law. The fluctuation turned out to be rapidly receding. It seems that no power can survive such a divine cleansing power. Even the fire of the holy flame is under the purification of the holy altar, and there are faint traces of deprivation from Xiao Yan's body. Da da da. Dong dong dong. Countless pleasant sounds suddenly poured out from the gap in the altar. In just an instant, the altar of angels completely enveloped Xiao Yan's body. Countless emotions of insignificance, unease, and awe poured out from the depths of Xiao Yan's soul. That feeling, as if he was an all-inclusive evil person, suddenly broke into the sacred land of angels. In addition, the power of demons living in Xiao Yan's blood, and even in his soul, has been captured by Ari. Striking out, this time, there is no trace of any crack at all. And with the appearance of this scene, all the negative emotions in Xiao Yan's body, the breath of the devil, were completely disturbed by the divine power at this time. Trapped in the shackles of the cage, even if it exploded, it would not help. The shadow of death rushed into my heart. Xiao Yan, you can't die. The 2 shadows in the distance abruptly broke free from each other's attack, and immediately their bodies burst into Xiao Yan's position one after the other, their eye sockets burst, and countless sorrows poured out of their minds. Blast me! In the face of the 2 women's pounce, Xiao Yan's mouth raised a hint of helplessness. He slowly shook his head, a heart-piercing roar sounded, and immediately attacked with all his strength, and the angel altar collided again. Boom! Such a collision, the sky and the earth were torn apart, and countless creatures sighed for it. Unfortunately, it still doesn't help. Xiao Yan felt his scalp go numb for a while, looked up at the increasingly solid angelic altar, and his last killer was completely brewed. The ancient cauldron, flashing with 9 holy patterns, like an inextinguishable Hong bell, released a clear and soul-sweeping sound, but even so, it still could not shelter Xiao Yan. Under such power, Xiao Yan only felt that all the vitality in his body quickly faded. A wave of exhaustion was like a tide, slowly drowning his will. Protect them. The arm was pushed slowly, and then the flame god Ding, with the power of the 9 holy patterns, instantly enveloped the 2 figures. At this moment, as if life and death were separated, Xiao Yan exhausted all his strength. The void around his body began to distort, and the divine power burned, burning Xiao Yan's body vaguely, and his vision became blurred. I vaguely saw the pitiful picture of the 2 figures, haggard and sobbing. The skin began to fester, and the power of the demons concealed and merged in it was entrenched on the bones. It seemed that everything had come to an end. After the Xiao clan disappeared, he was known as the peerless genius among the descendants of the Xiao clan. At this moment, he was turning into ashes little by little. Life, holy flame, the power of the golden dragon king, and even the dragon god bone and the emperor flame ring and many other powers all reluctantly fell off Xiao Yan's shattered and melted body, as if all this had become a foregone conclusion. Continuing from the previous episode 2823. Latest URL. Being able to die in the hands of this seat is also your best destination. Looking at the immobile Xiao Yan in the altar of angels, the angel's purifying power waved, causing the latter's skin to erode, and even the vitality in his body began to disappear rapidly. The archangel Ares' face suddenly sneered. After Xiao Yan died, with his own power and the power of the Son of God, the King of Darkness was just something in his pocket. This time, the battle of the underworld will turn the balance of victory from the moment Xiao Yan falls. The former Xiao clan's arrogance and the strongest were almost wiped out by the cooperation of the Angel Kingdom and the Human World Center. After countless reincarnations, this descendant of the Xiao clan who was born in the sky is also so pedantic and immature, trying to use save the Xiao clan by yourself, and let the Xiao clan, who used to be a big one, reappear in the world. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Whether it is those unknown demon powers, or the 2 heart-pounding names of the Xiao clan, they will all be completely erased from this underworld battle. The rulers of the thousands of worlds are only their kingdom of angels. After the shrine of angels in the void enveloped Xiao Yan, countless purifying powers spread out, facing Xiao Yan's limbs and bones, eroding away from the depths of his soul. Countless powers in the body rose slowly, and weak and helpless fluctuations quietly lingered in his heart, and even unspeakable exhaustion poured out of his mind. At this moment, his body and skin have been completely purified by the angelic altar, and this suppression and purification will become more and more powerful as time goes on. Xiao Yan's entire body and soul cannot move at all, and it is already close to the brink of collapse. Ants, they are ants after all. At this moment, the attack of the Dark King was instantly seen by the Son of the Gods, and then the latter looked at Xiao Yan, who was imprisoned in the altar of angels, with a blank expression. The corner of his mouth showed a strange killing intent. And then the palm of the hand slowly turned over and pressed towards Xiao Yan's position. Seeing the Archangel achieve decisive suppression, the Son of God will naturally not give Xiao Yan any chance to turn over, and is exerting it with his own demigod power. This time, even this Xiao Yan, who is known as a peerless genius, must die. Seeing this, the King of Darkness on the side, countless powers in his body seemed to be ready to unleash, but he didn't take the slightest shot to intercept the evil traces. It was like watching the Son of Man unleashing such a devastating blow on Xiao Yan. The original collision of the flame god Cauldron ended with the destruction of most of the angelic altar and the shelter of the two women and the others. Just when everyone's hearts were spinning because of Xiao Yan's accident and their eyes were tense, a torrent of black and white sky poured down from the sky. As soon as it surged, it subverted the universe, vibrated yin and yang, and it was simply invincible. Puff! Just feeling the attack of such a demigod-rank powerhouse, a mouthful of hot blood spurted out from Xiao Yan's mouth. Immediately, under the purification of the holy altar, his entire body fell from the air toward the ground. For a while, even all the power in the body was completely sealed and suppressed by the angel altar, and a crisis of death struck quickly. At this time, Xiao Yan's whole body was shrouded in blood, dripping with blood, and his chest, skin and skin were split open, and the scene was terrifying. Even the bones of the dragon gods surging behind him, releasing a burst of emerald-colored energy, trying to protect Xiao Yan's heart and soul. If not for the quenching of the dragon god's bone and the blood of the golden dragon king, Xiao Yan would have already been purified by it and vanished into ashes. But these are all the powers of the angelic altar. The attack of the Son of Man and God will come in an instant. How can Xiao Yan, who is now on the verge of death, prepare for it? The random strike of a demigod powerhouse does not require any thought at all to know it, and it is shockingly terrifying to the point of unmatched. If the current Xiao Yan resisted, I am afraid that he would only end up in a tragic end. Ha! Is this your determination to try to save the Xiao family? It seems that it is nothing more than that. Ares' eyes were locked on the dying Xiao Yan, and the contempt in his eyes became stronger and stronger. With the suppression and purification of the angel's altar, and in coordination with the destruction attack of the Son of the Gods, it was impossible for Xiao Yan in any case survive. Everything is under their control. Xiao Yan. Seeing this scene, the King of Beasts and the others all exclaimed in surprise, their pupils trembled slightly, and a touch of unknown bitterness poured into their hearts, but when they wanted to rescue, they were stopped by their opponents with a more ferocious offensive. Now, Xiao Yan seems to have to rely on himself. But in the face of the ninefold reincarnation rank peak, and the attack of the demigod rank powerhouse, even if he blew up all his origins, he might not be able to compete. For a time, Xiao Yan shook his head slightly, as if he couldn't find a way to solve it anyway. It's just that the devil's power drawn by the power of the angels in his body exudes a never-ending mad smile. It seems to be cheering, excited. What are you waiting for? Watching the torrent that was enough to subvert yin and yang, a pool of scarlet blood continued to overflow from Xiao Yan's mouth. The power of reincarnation in his body was close to the brink of collapse. His long hair was flowing, and his smile was even full of endless bitterness. Are we going to stop here today? Angel Shengming, destroy it, the criminals of the Xiao clan who meddle in the devil. Looking at Xiao Yan, who was like a mortal ant without any ability to struggle, Ares' laughter was particularly heart-wrenching. The wings of the angels behind him instantly gathered together, and the void shook slightly, and a purple monstrous light quickly converged. The moment it appeared, Yao Ji, Kai Lin, the king of beasts and others in the distance shrank slightly, because they could smell a moving wave from it. The two men of Gathering God's Sun and Ares attacked. They were determined to kill, trying to completely obliterate Xiao Yan. The two forces attacked Xiao Yan one after the other, with Ares' attack at the front. It seemed that once they got close to Xiao Yan, everything would end. At this moment, almost everyone's pupils were filled with despair and sadness. The roaring and angry voices of the sky cut through the sky, but it didn't help. However, just as Ares' attack approached the 100-meter range of Xiao Yan's body, the void around Xiao Yan's body was suddenly torn apart by some terrifying force, and a figure stepped out of the void, waving his clothes gently. Sleeves pierced through layers of void. Immediately, under the gazes of countless people, he stretched out his palm and gently grasped the dazzling angel's annihilation power, twisting it at will. The vast angel's power turned into a light spot in the sky, and was then engulfed by the endless darkness. Go, big elder. Dragging his heavy eyelids, his pupils were filled with blankness. Xiao Yan looked at the void in front of him with some difficulty. In the void in front of him, there was a black-shirted figure standing on the ground. Even if it was covered by a black shirt, the fluctuations that originated from the depths of his bloodlines allowed Xiao Yan to recognize the true identity of the other party. It was the great elder of the Xiao clan who went out to repair the ruler, Xiao Yan. The center of the human world, the kingdom of angels. The black-shirted figure slowly raised his head, revealing an old face, full of ferocious killing intent. Senior, Xiao Yan. The two women who were temporarily suppressed by the flame god Cauldron in the distance shrank slightly, and then looked at the old figure that suddenly appeared. Their eyes were reddish, and the heart-piercing roaring voice directly penetrated the flame god Cauldron's obstruction, and they did everything. It fell into the ears of the figure in the black shirt. Latest URL. To download the latest TXT book of this book, please click Mobile Phone Reading of this book, Book Review. For the convenience of reading next time, you can click on the Favorites below to record this. Xiao Yan in Chapter 2824. The reading record, you can see it when you open the bookshelf next time. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Exclamation mark. Continuing from the previous episode 2824. The latest website, on the messy ground, Xiao Yan's body forcibly smashed a huge gap, and the pure white angel altar covered Xiao Yan's body like a shackle. On the ground above the gap, Xiao Yan slowly stood. There doesn't seem to be any energy fluctuations on him, and at first glance, he looks like an ordinary mortal. It's just that the huge heavy ruler on the ladder's back has a faint wave of extreme anger. This fluctuation is so strange. The strength seems to be no less than Ares. The strength of this guy is really the pinnacle of the 9 reincarnation rank. The Archangel Beeline, who was unstopped by the side, looked at the dark shadow stepping on the ground in the distance. His eyes narrowed slightly, and there seemed to be a hint of undetectable surprise in it. According to the information of Angel Kingdom, after this guy woke up from the sea of samsara, although he stepped into the pinnacle of the 9 reincarnation rank, but at best it was only as good as the early stage. Why was the latter able to jump to the middle stage of the 9 reincarnations in such a short period of time, reaching the level of being on an equal footing with Ares? Simply appalling. The pinnacle of the 9-fold reincarnation, mid-stage. Looking at the appearance of this figure, the man-god Sun, who was condescending like a master, was slightly surprised, not only surprised by the appearance of the other party, but also by the strength of the other party. It's actually this old man. But this king's plan that has been planned for tens of thousands of years has finally reached this critical point. How can you easily crack it? The king of darkness looked at Xiao Yan in a state of rage, and immediately the power of the demons around him began to gather. A demigod in the early stage, a middle stage of the 9th level reincarnation stage, it's really a big battle. The power in Elder Xiao Yan's body was like a pool of dead lake water suddenly violently stirred, and even the dark heavy ruler behind him was slightly rippling, as if it was fading from the black luster on it, releasing its supreme glory. Crack! However, the king of darkness did not hesitate. He raised the devil's hand and pointed it gently. A bunch of prisoners' cages filled with devil's patterns flashed away, twisting the void, and abruptly split from the ground around Xiao Yan. Immediately suppress it. Xiao Yan already had the aura of the god execution ruler in his body. After the Great Elder had repaired the God Execution Ruler, he could easily find the latter by virtue of his aura. But now Xiao Yan is on the verge of death. Xiao Yan appeared to try to save the latter, but the King of Darkness cracked his attack instantly. This disaster, this feast, must be on the verge of the end of life before it can be awakened, inherited, and absorbed the purest demonic power. The King of Darkness has already done everything for this. How could it be because of Xiao Yan's appear, and thus lose all success? The most important thing, even if Xiao Yan can compete with Archangel Ares, the Son of Man and God is still a hidden danger. This plan must be implemented. Gollum. At this moment, the two women who were shrouded in the flame god Cauldron, plus the king of all beasts and the confidants of the Endless Flame Alliance, all stared blankly at the King of Darkness. Who would have thought that? The situation that had just turned around was instantly stifled by the faint hope of the King of Darkness. The King of Darkness is actually a guy who helps and abuses Joe. Countless people's minds are blank, and they look at the Dark King above the sky in disbelief. They can't even figure out what the Dark King is doing. What is the intention? Ha ha ha. The so-called Endless Flame Alliance is just a joke. King of Darkness, after the end of the underworld, the center of the human world will naturally leave you a place of honor that belongs to you. His two-color torrent attack was getting closer and closer to the ground below. Seeing the King of Darkness's actions, Ren Shenzi immediately laughed wildly, and the killing intent in the depths of his eyes was gradually replaced by ridicule. Unexpectedly, as powerful as the King of Darkness, he actually began to fear his own power. Now that his shot has completely intercepted and suppressed Xiao Yan, this is the best proof. He gave in. In the battle just now, he also smelled the supreme power of the demigods, and he was afraid. But that's fine. Without the obstruction of the Dark King, the journey to the underworld would have been much simpler. If the stubborn people of the Xiao clan were so wise, how could they end up in such a miserable end that they almost wiped out their clan? Dark King, what are you doing? All the powerhouses of the Endless Flame Alliance had their eyes cracked, looking at the strange posture of the Dark King in anger, and all the blood and power in their bodies had faint traces of explosion and boiling. Nothing. Just for you to enjoy a truly glorious feast. In the face of everyone's doubts and angry expressions, the King of Darkness showed an intriguing cold smile. Immediately, under everyone's attention, his body was hidden in the dark tide, and the demon robe behind him burst out with extreme greed. Fluctuations. Bang! And just when everyone was in such a state, the attack of the *** child from a distance completely reached Xiao Yan's side, and the trial obliterated Xiao Yan. Even if Xiao Yan had the intention to save him, the extremely ferocious demon cage around him made him unable to exert any power at all. He could only watch the power of destruction pour out along with the black and white torrent, completely annihilating Xiao Yan. I see. With a tired body, there was only a gleam in the corner of his heavy eyes. After seeing such a crazy move by the Dark King, Xiao Yan suddenly understood something, and the madness in the depths of his pupils spread uncontrollably. Oh! The terrifying attack from the demigod rank powerhouse accurately hit Xiao Yan, who had only one breath left, and the sound of countless bones shattering and meridians shattering deeply pierced the hearts of everyone present. But as the death touch approached, Xiao Yan could also clearly feel that the demonic power in his body, like a stubborn child, was transforming at an astonishing speed, growing. Blood, skin, bones, at this moment, under the double attack of the angelic altar's purification power and such a world-destroying posture, most of them have been destroyed, and even the blood and soul in the body will be completely wiped away in the next instant. Blood dripping, holy flame rippling, dragon energy, blood and other forces in the body are surging crazily. Unfortunately, Xiao Yan is like a dying old man, unable to do anything at all. What he can do seems to be only with difficulty. He opened his eyes, and at the last moment of his life, he glanced at the graceful shadows of the two who were unable to let go and let go. In the blurred line of sight, the figures with roaring expressions on their faces stabbed Xiao Yan's mind wholly, but at this moment, in order not to let the Son of God find out, he had no choice. All the power slowly melted, turned into dust. I don't know where to drift. Consciousness began to become blurred. Even the bones of the dragon ** in the body, immortality and other forces could not stop this destruction power. No one knows that the corpse source and other powers that evaporated and merged from Xiao Yan's body drifted away in the dark behind the King of Darkness above the sky. It was as if at that moment, everything returned to the original owner. Ended. In the future, Xiao Yan will still exist forever in the long river of history. At this moment, countless destructive forces acted on Xiao Yan, and the two archangels slowly stepped into the void, as if they were admiring some kind of satisfactory work, and the smiles on the corners of their mouths were so outrageous. Roaring, angry voices, tears, grief, and countless other emotions filled the hearts and faces of the Endless Flame Alliance, but they didn't help. This dead end is still spreading. Steal incense.